So the Colts have fever players out. Sophie was not there, but they give everyone jerseys. And Caitlin Clark grew up in Iowa, is a Chiefs fan, refused to wear the Colts jersey. She just held it up like this. And she hasn't gone out and said, like, I didn't do it because I'm a Chiefs fan, but the internet was like, she's a real one.
I love it.
And it's just like...
One small decision at an NFL game said more about authenticity than 1,000 press releases. The Indiana Fever walked into the Colts house, cameras rolling, jerseys ready, every detail curated for a perfect crossover moment between leagues. Players smiled. Staff moved like clockwork. The optics were scripted to the millimeter. Unity, city pride, a handshake between brands. And then Caitlin Clark chose not to play along with the script. She didn't make a speech. She didn't roll her eyes. She didn't turn it into a scene. She simply held the jersey and kept her own colors off her shoulders. That was it. 3 seconds of quiet body language that carried the weight of a paragraph. In a night designed to turn people into props, she elected to stay a person. She's a lifelong Chiefs fan from Iowa. That piece of identity didn't get renegotiated for a photo op. It wasn't defiance for defiance's sake. It was alignment. Fans instantly recognized what they were seeing. Loyalty, not noise. Consistency, not choreography. The clip traveled because it felt unscripted in a room full of scripts. Teammate Sophie Cunningham saw the same thing and called it what it was: awesome. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was honest. If you spend enough time watching sports media cycles, you can feel the difference between a moment that's manufactured and a moment that slips out of the machine. This one slipped out, and the internet did what it always does with realness. It amplified it. The takes poured in. Some crowned it a lesson in staying true. Others mocked the uproar. It's just a jersey. But that's exactly why it landed. The smallest choices often say the most because they aren't padded with explanation or softened with spin. No caption, no prepared line, just a quiet refusal to pretend for the camera. It read as control. It read as I know who I am. And in a year where every move is analyzed, clipped, and reposted, that kind of calm, centered decision becomes the loudest message in the room. The league got its content. The Colts got their moment. But Clark kept her boundary, and boundaries are sticky. They stick to perception. They stick to brand. They stick to future decisions you make when the lights are on you again. That's why this tiny scene became a referendum on authenticity. It wasn't about football teams or city politics. It was about whether you can keep your compass steady when everything around you is nudging it. Fans voted with their attention, and the vote wasn't even close. If that's all it was, the story would have ended in a few hours. But what happened on that field had layers, and the first layer is simpler than people think.
I guess watched, no. Hell no. I haven't watched a lick of the WNBA. I don't know what's going on. I talked to my teammates like the day that we did exit interviews and all of that, and I haven't. I need a cleanse. Like, I'm booking vacations. Wes, we need to go on a vacation and do a podcast.
Strip away the noise, and here's the core. The Colts were hosting. The Fever were guests of honor. Somebody in marketing did their job well. Custom jerseys, a clean moment of crossover goodwill, a highlight package waiting to happen. Most players slipped into the blue and white without hesitation, because it was polite, because it was expected, because there's nothing inherently wrong with lifting a local team for a night. That's how these events work. The cameras smile, the crowd claps, the clip posts, the metrics look healthy. Clark didn't follow the choreography. She didn't reject the gift or disrespect the building. She just didn't wear the uniform. She held it. That simple pause, jersey in hand, shoulders bare, reframed the entire scene. Sports culture is full of rituals we accept without thinking. Caps on draft night, towels over shoulders at shoot-around, commemorative tops for photo ops. Most of the time, it's harmless. But rituals are still choices, and this time her choice said, "Thanks for the gesture, but my identity isn't a prop." Context matters. She's a Chiefs lifer from Iowa. That's more than a team preference. It's part of her personal map. Switching colors for a sponsored moment would have read as convenient. Holding the jersey read as consistent. Notice what she didn't do. She didn't grandstand, didn't smirk, didn't try to make the moment about herself. No theater, just a boundary set with the lightest touch possible. The difference between noise and signal is restraint, and restraint is why this worked. Memes came anyway. They always do. But alongside the jokes was something stickier: respect. People didn't love the move because it was rebellious. They loved it because it was clean. A quiet, no, thank you, that didn't turn anyone into a villain. In an era where every micro moment is engineered to look bigger than it is, a micro moment that refuses to grow on command feels refreshing. It tells you something about her that press conferences can't. She won't bend for optics. She can be gracious and still set a line. There's also a tactical layer most viewers feel even if they don't name it. Fans reward coherence. When someone's public decisions line up, on-court intensity, off-court composure, and small choices that match their stated values, you start to trust their brand the way you trust a teammate in the last minute. Trust is the engine of modern fandom. It's the difference between attention and attachment. That night, a 3-second gesture nudged trust forward. And that's why the clip lit up feeds. Not because a jersey wasn't worn, but because a pattern was confirmed. Clark has been the same person in 100 louder moments. This was the quietest proof yet. People didn't need a caption to decode it. They felt it. That tracks. The simplicity is what gave it power. It's hard to fake unbothered. It's easy to notice when someone has it. Now zoom out, and you'll see the second layer. Who noticed first, who said it out loud, and why that agreement from a certain teammate amplified everything.
I can win and roam it. Like, I can be like, I'm here. They brought, I'll put this shit on. Her not doing that is so incredible. I hope she knows how awesome that was.
You said it yesterday, and I was like I'm not surprised by it. I'm not, because you know what? Everyone's always trying to get her to wear something or do something, and for her to be like, nah.
Sophie Cunningham didn't need a think piece. She laughed, praised it, and said she wasn't surprised at all. On her Show Me Something podcast, she framed it as Clark staying true while everybody else tries to nudge her into just wear this, just post that. Translation: the jersey wasn't the point, pressure was. Sophie's admiration wasn't about football, it was about agency. And agency is Sophie's favorite subject. She treats plain talk like oxygen. If something feels contrived, she'll say it. If a teammate pushes back on PR choreography, she applauds. That's why her take landed. She recognized the move immediately and endorsed it without turning it into a morality play. But if you think she stopped at compliments, you haven't met Sophie. Sophie's reputation isn't built on safe lines. In exit interviews, she torched the league's leadership, saying too many decision-makers don't truly know basketball. Not a whisper, not a wink. A blunt, quotable line designed to get attention, and it did. This wasn't a first offense. Fines have followed her before for blasting officiating. She's not proud of the cussing itself. She said as much. She is proud of the substance. There's a difference. And it matters because fans can smell when an athlete is venting versus when they're raising a signal flare. Sophie is the latter. Her tone is rough cut. The point is precise. But fiery pressers aren't the only line she drew this month. When she said she hasn't watched the WNBA finals, people heard apathy. What she meant was survival. After a season of bumps, headlines, and everyone dissecting every syllable around Clark, Sophie called it a cleanse. Distance is how pros heal when the noise won't stop. You can respect the game and still step back from the broadcast. It's not betrayal, it's a boundary. And if we're being honest, fans often mistake constant viewing for loyalty. For players, recovery requires friction, against expectations, against burnout, against the temptation to keep arguing online. Sophie chose air. That's not cold. That's human. And it sets up the larger tension this story exposes. PR expects uniformity because uniformity is easy to sell. But audiences now reward something else. The small refusal that signals a spine. Clark's non-wear was not a tantrum. It was alignment. A brand is 1,000 tiny yes and a handful of sacred no's. Saying no to a one-night cosplay rival didn't hurt the Colts, didn't embarrass the Fever, and didn't injure the W. It did, however, tell fans she won't pretend for their approval. That's why the clip popped. It was quiet, clean dissent that didn't punch down at anyone. Brands tried to script a moment. A person edited the script. And the loudest amen came from someone who knows the price of edits. Sophie. When an outspoken player endorses another player's boundary, it reframes the whole narrative. Sophie didn't defend Clark as if there was a crime. She normalized it. She said that's who Clark is. No surprise, and that staying yourself under pressure is rare. Coming from Sophie, that's not clout chasing, that's pattern recognition. It's also how culture shifts, not through lectures, but through one peer saying, yep, that. Fans love it because it validates what they felt in their gut. Consent and authenticity beat costume change compliance every time. But here's the twist. Both women pay for being this way.
So the Colts have Fever players out. Sophie was not there, but they give everyone jerseys. And Caitlin Clark, grew up in Iowa, is a Chiefs fan, refused to wear the Colts jersey. She just held it up like this. And she hasn't gone out and said, like, I didn't do it because I'm a Chiefs fan, but the internet was like, she's a real one.
I love it.
And it's just like, it's so good. So good.
Sophie knows fines arrive faster when you mix opinion with volume. She also knows silence costs more in the long run. Her argument about leadership isn't a tantrum about calls. It's a thesis about competence. Meanwhile, Clark absorbs an entirely different tax, saturation. Every gesture becomes discourse. Every silence becomes a take. Authenticity in that environment is exhausting, but it's also the only sustainable lane. If you perform for cameras, you eventually forget who you are without them. If you draw your line early, you protect the future work. Both athletes are choosing long-term credibility over short-term smoothness. That's not rebellious, that's strategy. And the next few months will tell you if the market wants more of it, or less. Expect more micro-moments where stars resist neat packaging. The league will keep courting NFL-adjacent attention because reach is reach. Players will keep choosing their own symbols because identity is identity. Somewhere between the two, the audience will reward whoever feels least manufactured. That's why this story traveled. It wasn't a fight. It was a fork in the road. Brand unity on one side, personal loyalty on the other. Clark chose loyalty without starting a fire. Sophie chose support without picking a feud. That combination is rare. It's also replicable if others are brave enough to keep their nose sacred. Here's the uncomfortable truth modern sports keeps proving. People don't crave perfection, they crave proof. The jersey stayed in Clark's hands and gave them proof she won't bend for optics. Sophie spoke her mind again and gave them proof someone inside the room will still say the quiet part out loud. One moment was silent. One was loud. Both read as real. And in an attention economy that can smell spin from a mile away, real wins. If that makes some executives tense, fine. If it makes fans lean in, even better. Because the league doesn't just grow on highlights, it grows on trust. And this week, trust looked like a jersey that didn't get worn and a teammate who said, simply, that was awesome.